This is the generation of people we are talking about. These are the ones we are handing over. And I'm impressed, yeah? And I'm very, very overwhelmed to identify with you. Your smiles alone is the AI herself. Alright? Okay, so you can do your presentation while people are taking coffee and coming back. We will bring in the big masquerade. They are the big masquerade. Mafidon, the other big masquerade. They come in later. When they talk, this place will roar. Thank you very much.
Excellent. If you could just hit the slideshow button, that would be fantastic. Yeah. From the beginning? Just on the left at the top, from the beginning. That's excellent. Perfect. Hi everybody. Lovely to meet many of you today already. And what an amazing panelist of speakers. It's just such an honour to speak alongside Dr. Kelly and many others. So thank you for having me today. I'll stand this to the side so you can see my slides. As I was just kindly introduced, my name is Bennett. I'm from Cheshire. I study medicine. I started my medical career at the University of Oxford when I started studying medicine there in 2019. I'm 24 years old, so I am on the young end, but it's an absolute privilege to be with you today. And as I was just introduced, I'll be speaking a little bit about the next generation of medicine. So I want to talk a bit about leadership strategy, a bit about education, and end with some sort of digital advancements that I've already seen in my own sort of journey in medicine so far. So one of the most important things when we're talking about the future of medicine, we need to address sort of leadership and education. This is really where the next generation are coming in. It's how we ensure that any improvements that we do make are sustainable. And as I'll speak on a little bit, talking about progress, not just preserving what we have, but also trying to progress for the future. So first of all, I'm going to start with this. Oh, sorry, next slide. Excellent, thank you. So I'm going to start with this slide. Now this is from a publication from the NHS in 2011. And we've come a little way from here, so I'll talk a bit about the progress we've made. But I just wanted to start here. You can see in their leadership strategy, starting from sort of creating a vision to the different necessities that are needed to deliver the service, and then to really delivering the strategy. It's an excellent approach, and we've come so far with it. But I also want to take a look at this and just have a think for a second. Is there any improvements that you would think from this slide? Right from creating our vision all the way to development, over a decade ago. When I saw this slide, I thought, this is excellent, what an amazing start. But again, to really keep improving, I thought there were a couple things you could add. Potentially some review points. So looking at how we're progressing, it's really important to have sort of review checkpoints like within your structure, so you can be checking your efficiency, checking how, are you actually meeting your targets? Are we on track to complete it? Another sort of improvement that I thought as well we could have is, again, thinking about like sort of progressing for the future. Connections, is there like additional connections, partnerships that we can make? Can we take this wider? It's excellent to be able to deliver a certain strategy, but actually, like, can we take it further? Is there more connections we can make? So I thought that this was exemplified really well. So 2011 here. Next slide is taken from the Harrogate and District Foundation Trust, so the hospitals there. And this one's from 2016 to 2019, from their sort of next step approach. I think that this exemplifies it really well. You can see here that we have some personal aspects, leading with care, engaging well with the team. And then you also have sort of like the interdisciplinary, inter-team work. So we have like evaluating information, those review points that I was talking about a bit earlier. And then finally, we have sort of that like progressive nature. So we have connecting our service to other places, developing capability, that thing of almost increasing our capacity to give. So once we have tapped into a service or done something well, can we actually increase this capacity? And this is something really important, particularly in the healthcare field where we're often really stretched with resources. If we're able to see something that's done really well and to then start to increase our capacity or make connections with other services that can use the same approach, it will make us so much more efficient. So that was the Harrogate Trust. I now want to move on to something that's a bit more recent. This is from NHS England. This is what they call their 6 principle approach. And I really enjoy this. So it's looking at sort of like compassion, so very like sort of the individual nature, being very inclusive, equality, increasing in diversity, something that I'm quite passionate about myself, having women in positions of leadership and influence, as well as having greater ethnic diversity within, even like presenting panels like today. And so they also have curiosity, sort of thinking about getting the highest standard of healthcare. And then finally they have collaboration, which is really getting those connections that I was talking about a little bit earlier on. So we've spoken a bit about how leadership approaches have evolved over a decade or so. And something that is quite important, even when we're looking to the future, is sort of having very specific and targeted pathways for leadership. So in times gone by, particularly in the healthcare field, leadership used to be very disjointed from clinical experience. You sort of have some people who maybe come in and go for a role of a manager of a hospital or a healthcare establishment, and they maybe don't have too much link to the clinical side. And that's something that we've really seen change recently, and something that I'm really excited for in the future, because I think experience teaches you so much. I'll speak a bit more about this in a minute, but it teaches you so much. And so to be able to have leaders who are also able to be clinicians or just have a greater exposure to the field, it means that when we lead, when we're making those decisions, it's not just based on some statistics somewhere that we've just heard about, but actually it's also based on the reality of what you see before you. And so one of the things that's really important and that our country is starting to do so much better as well is starting to create specific pathways to help those who are rising in the field of medicine, healthcare, nursing, helping them to sort of develop their leadership strategies alongside. This is again taken from the Harrogate and District Foundation School, but I really like the way that they've sort of put it really clearly in their documentation. Sort of speaking about, okay, looking to the future, actually, sort of we want behavioural framework, we want development pathways, coaching and mentoring, and then learning through doing it. Again, that experience that we were just talking about that's so important, even in leadership. So, about halfway through now, we're going to talk a bit about optimising leadership and education. How do we actually do this? It's great to want to do it. How can we actually do it? So here are a couple points that I just came up with that I've seen through experience and also just looking to the future, found particularly helpful. So we've spoken a bit about structured pathways. One example that I have is, so I started my medical degree at the University of Oxford, and almost 2 years ago I was elected into president over the medical school there. And And whilst I was president, I was scouted for this sort of partnering healthcare trust. It's called the Faculty of Leadership and Medical Management. The Faculty of Medical Leadership and Management. And there they have a load of coaching. You can have mentors within the medical field as well. So these sort of very specific pathways that can help, particularly the next generation and in a similar way, the generation that's also gone before us, being those mentors, being the ones who have that experience and are passing it on to the next generation, being the ones who are able to help sort of steer and guide us as we're also helping to make decisions, and particularly there to fall back on when we don't know what to do, like COVID really showed. So that's sort of structured leadership and development programs. Multi-model, I'll go into a bit more of this in a second, but it's not really always a one-size-fits-all. When you're learning leadership and education, playing to people's strengths will again make us not just more efficient, but it makes us multifaceted. It means that we can sort of tackle different areas. We're not all going to have the same approach to learning and leadership. Embedding leadership into clinical training, spoke a bit about that with experience. The use of digital, just like increasing our sort of like digital capacity, particularly in healthcare, it can be hard. But I've got a VR example that I'll share later, an AI example if I've got time. And then finally, just remembering to incorporate those principles of like compassion, curiosity, collaboration with the NHS set. So looking a bit at a multi-model learning approach, So I found this really interesting, actually. So there's one approach that's called 70-20-10, and this gives 70% of learning directly from experience, from challenging, from problem solving, 20% from social interaction, and only 10% from formal education and training. And of course, as a medical student, having done many years on a medical course so far, there's a lot that you can get from formal education, but again, there's not really anything that can beat the learning from experience and really challenging yourself in the problem solving. So I thought this would be helpful just to sort of blow a couple minds on sort of different approaches you can take. Okay, finally I wanted to look at a couple examples of particularly where we can improve in sort of our digital incorporation within the healthcare field and what I've used as well before. Why is this important? Well, first of all, it's not just because we're in the digital age. It's not just that we've got many phones and all sorts of digital things in the audience, but it increases our efficiency. It increases our accessibility. So particularly in the healthcare field, sometimes time can be a bit tight, as it is today. And so being able to have sort of these digital approaches means that you can then do maybe like bite-sized learning. So you can sort of learn on the go, you know, on the way to work, on the way back from work, between shifts, or when you have time off, rather than having to sit formally in a classroom like this and having sort of the lecture. You can start to learn bite-sized, and that's really important, to help us keep improving and developing. And I just think this is a great area for like advancement in leadership and education and research, to be honest. Particularly in leadership, we haven't really tapped into sort of just looking at where we can like have, IT assist us. So finally, just a couple of quick examples. This is from the Oxford Medical Simulation. It's something that we use at Oxford University. And basically we'd use like VR headsets and simulation to practice patients, particularly emergencies. And this is excellent because it increases safety particularly, rather than sort of first time I'm trying to help someone who's critically ill, rather than just being in a classroom and then suddenly thrown into the clinical setting. You can be here and you can do that sort of structured approach. You can do it on a patient that's obviously just in a headset, so you're not, if there is anything that you either get wrong or need a bit of help with, it's in a safe learning environment. So I think this is something that's just done excellently in the medical field, but again, something we could tap into, particularly for leadership maybe. Finally, I just wanted to leave you with an example of AI, particularly used in research. I was helped out with this translational research group that did AI, and it just really transforms the field. So there's a lot upcoming, and my time is now short, but I will just leave you with this. Fit for the Future is a new publishment from the government, and I would just say if you haven't had a look at it, it's got some great points for sort of like points for the future. Over the next decade, they're looking at what can we do to improve in this field. So thank you for having me today. I hope you learned something new.
Thank you.